Agree.
It
doesn't sound right.
It is what it is.
And off the train walking to that office.
What about?
I remember these days.
In North Oregon.
I would have all that walking every day.
Brought in.
Nope, it's not on yet. Test. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. If you want to get ready to go.
Good.
He knew when he moved in. I said, wait until she goes to work.
Medical marijuana.
She'll be anything. And I said, make sure it's just your stuff.
Karen Ann says.
You know, get it out.
5 minutes.
She did.
Okay, this is the Kane County Transportation Committee for Tuesday, August 16th, 2022. I'm Drew Fraz, Transportation Chairman. I'd like a roll call, please. We'll call to order.
Iqbal. Berman,
Burns here.
Kenyon,
Here.
Pius,
Guys present.
Kobe. Wojnicki,
Present.
Martin,
Martin present.
Pirog, Shepro,
Depro present.
Braz.
Raz here.
You have a quorum.
We have a quorum, and I'd like a motion and a second to approve our minutes from our July 19th, 2022 meeting.
Caius
Wojnicki
move.
moves.
Moved by
Caius seconds.
Caius, moved by Caius, second by Wojnicki.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just joking.
Questions or comments, changes? If not, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal, Kenyon,
Iqbal, yes.
Yes.
thank you. Kenyon,
Yes. Yes.
Pius,
Caius, yes.
Kobe. Wojnicki,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Braz.
Raz, yes. Public comment. Is there anybody in person or online who would like to address the committee on agenda items? Nobody online? Okay, then we'll move over to Jackie Forbes, who's going to handle items 4 through 8. So Jackie, finance report.
Good morning, everybody. In your packet are the typical finance reports for your review. If you have any questions at this time, we'll be happy to take them.
Any questions for Jackie on the finance reports? If not, we'll go to item B, a resolution approving the assignment of contractual rights and obligations. I need a motion and a second.
Kenyon would move.
And second by
Caius.
Caius.
Okay, this is more of a housekeeping item. A company that we have been working with, Transmart Inc., was acquired by another company and they have a name change. They are now known as Transmart LLC. We would like to continue working with them and request your approval to enter into a contract with this company with a slightly different name.
If this sounds familiar, we did this recently, but there are some changes to the paperwork, so we're doing it over again. I have a motion and a second. Comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Kenyon, yes.
Pius,
Caius, yes.
Kobe. Wojnicki,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Braz.
Yes.
Yes.
Item 5A, maintenance report.
Okay, the report is in your packet. Second mowing will be starting soon and staff continues on roadway repair, ditching projects, drainage enhancements and street sweeping at this time. Anyone has any questions? Mr. Edwards
Or
is here.
comments for Jackie on maintenance? If not, item 6, planning and programming. Item A.
All right, reports in your packet. Staff has been involved in many activities. I've highlighted them there. As far as our ride and cane program update, we are up to now 11 people registered for our ride and cane program. So one more since this report was done. We are continuing outreach and we're getting ready to launch a marketing campaign. We're really going to get a push out to advertise the program, including purchasing some what we're calling swag items to give away to riders who register with us. And your impact fee report is in the packet as well. Any questions?
No questions?
I have a question.
Barbara, Nikki, go ahead.
Thank you. So we were funded in a grant 200,000 for the ride and cane. So how much roughly do we spend 1 year for ride and cane? How long will that money last us?
We have a couple of different ideas what we're going to do with that funding. We believe we're going to give most of it to the sponsors to help them pay their local match to the program, and maybe they'll expand some of their service or be able to extend how many rides they provide with the funding. We're also using some of it for the marketing at this point. So originally Pace had told us that we need to spend the money by the end of this year. And we thought the easiest way to do that would be if we helped our sponsors by giving them a larger appropriation, I guess, of funding than we usually do. Typically, we would do about $120,000 a year, but we're looking at increasing that this year. And they'll be able to allocate that on Pace's side. So they actually give that to them directly through us.
It's a good
Tom?
program.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask real quick, how much is the entire annual program about? Is it almost 3 million? What is it approximately?
Ooh, it might be around 2 or 3 million. I don't know off the top of my
Okay.
head. We have already appropriated 300,000 for the program. And then we have this additional 200,000, which is actually going to be an item in a couple minutes that
Yeah.
we'll talk about too.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Nice job, everybody. You got her.
Other questions? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item B, the resolution approving a funding agreement with CMAP for the bicycle pedestrian plan.
Highest move.
Caius moves.
Berman second.
Berman seconds. Jackie?
All right, you may have remembered recently, we came forward with a request to approve an agreement with Epstein Inc. to do this bicycle and pedestrian plan update. We now have an agreement with CMAP for the federal funding that's going to pay for that project. We have $200,000 that's coming to us from Unified Work Program, or UWP funding as part of this. The good news is typically this is an 80-20 funding split, and we would have to pay the 20% with local funds. But this year IDOT has offered to pay the local match. So you'll see in here that we have $160,000 in federal funds and then $40,000 in IDOT funds. So we have almost the entire project covered by funds from outside the county.
Perfect. My kind of funding.
Mhm.
Any questions or comments? At the roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal, Iqbal,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Bias, yes.
Gopi, Wodnicki,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Ross.
Raz, yes.
Yes.
Okay, item C, another resolution approving the appropriation of funds received from PACE. Need a motion and a second. Moved by
Nikki
Berman.
moves.
Nikki moves, Berman seconds. Jackie?
All right, well, thanks, Barb, because you brought this up already. This is an appropriation request for the $200,000 that we received from PACE to put toward the Ride and Cane program. You may recall they did come out a couple of months ago now. I think there might be a couple pictures in the packet to present us with the check. And they also brought a couple of buses with them, including one of their electric vehicles for us to see. So this is now taking that funding and appropriating it so that we can put it toward the Ride and Cane program. They did say that we could subsidize current sponsor rides, enhance the program, and assist sponsors with their local match requirements. So we'll do one of those few things with that money.
Okay, questions or comments? If not, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal, Kenyon,
Kenyon, yes.
Caius,
Bias, yes.
Wodnicki,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Yes.
They are.
Item D, a resolution approving an amendment to an IGA with the state of Illinois. This is reference engineering, phase 2 engineering, Kirk Road over the Union Pacific Railroad tracks. This is the bridge on the east side of Geneva over the railroad tracks just south of 38. Need a motion and a second.
Berman moved. Martin seconds.
Kenyon moves, Martin seconds. Jackie?
All right, this is a typical IDOT funding agreement. We have already come through with first phase 2 engineering. We have some additional work that we need to perform on this project. We reached out to IDOT and we did get an increase in federal funding to cover the increased costs to do this work, and we recommend approval.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Berman, yes.
Iqbal. Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Nice, yes.
Winnicki,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Braz.
Raz, yes. Item 7A, permitting report. Back to Jackie.
In your packet was the typical permitting report highlighting different projects that are being worked on in the division. Nothing more to add.
Okay, and then I'd like to ask Tom to update us. You know, we've had 4 meetings where the city of St. Charles appeared before us, referenced that right in, right out on 64 and Randall. We had a meeting this past week with everybody concerned up in with the chairman. And we tentatively have an agreement, but I'll let Tom fill us in.
Yeah, I think last time I had mentioned that we were trying to bring that forward this month, and rather it will be coming forward at the September 20th Transportation Committee meeting. That it will require an amendment to the existing intergovernmental agreement, and so staff is working with Pat Jager from the State's Attorney's Office to do an amendment for the agreement, and we essentially are looking at a right-in at that location, and we'll be bringing forward that change. There are some design elements that the agreement will also deal with. So there are some conditions that will be associated with the amendment. So staff will have that before you next month.
Okay, so yeah, good news, pretty much what we had hoped for and what we had agreed upon, and the right out is off the table. Ms. Wodnicki?
That was going to be my question. Is the right out on Route 64 then?
Yeah, that was the big sticking point.
Yeah.
Staff thought we could bend a little bit and give them the right in, but everybody felt very strongly that the right out was not a safe design.
So the right outs on Route 64, and then they'd have to travel somewhere and turn around if they wanted to continue going south on Randall, correct? Because we're,
Yeah, I mean,
Uh-huh.
there's some options. You know, this is all part of an IGA that dates back quite a while.
they
Yeah,
could go
there-
down to
yeah.
Oak, but they're
But
kind
there
of
is a rear frontage road that exists now and could be actually improved upon, where they would go back to Woodward, the new intersection, and continue south.
Yeah, there is
Oh, go
public
down?
access. There is public access that was all part of the intergovernmental agreement that is recorded, and the gas station or any land use that might go in the corner has a legal right of access, frontage road all the way up to Woodward Drive. So there's a lot of different ways that they can get to wherever they're trying to go to.
So they'd have to go out and go north again and then get back to Randall to go south on Randall, if that's what they wanted to do, right?
Yeah, again, it's a typical cross access, or you can use public roadways. It's no different than any other commercial along Randall Road. We do require, as part of the county board design requirements, we require cross access and frontage roads. And so they have different ways of getting to whatever direction they want to go to.
Okay.
Mr. Caius?
Yeah, Caius here. I pulled in there to see what the access was behind the dealership, and they're gonna have to do some modifications of some sort. It looks like they use it for their driveway almost exclusively
become-
for that.
It looks like a back alley to the building. That's why,
Trucks
Yeah.
parked back there and stuff, but yeah, there is, if it gets cleaned up, see how it will provide access to the signal.
some improvement of some kind back there. And then I didn't see it as a issue if you pulled into that, whatever, coming back to, because that's a light back there, so you can go then north or south. So that's certainly the safest way to do it.
Carl pointed out that the developer of that whole parcel owns the empty lots to the west of that dealership. So there's some options to maybe make a larger frontage or I don't know, whatever you call it, a frontage road in the rear,
Right.
access road. Yeah, in the back. So maybe make that, because right now it does seem like their doors open right onto that
Right
alley.
into it, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but there's lots of options there. It's just that, the IGA has been in effect for a long, long time, and it did somewhat devalue that corner, and everybody was aware of that. So it may have to be another use, lower volume use than a gas station, but, from what I understand, there are gas station companies that would be happy with the right-in only. So that's where we stand. So, we're waiting for all parties to, get it on paper and make that, adjustment to the IGA. So anything else on that? If not, traffic operations and permitting.
Right. The report is in the packet, just highlighting that they continue to work with the adaptive timing system agencies to ensure that it's working properly and the way we have it designed, and highlighting other routine activities that are being done by the traffic operations and safety team.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll move over to Jennifer O'Connell for item 9A, project implementation report.
Good morning. In this month's implementation report, I'd like to highlight that we held the Randall Road at Hobbs Road Public Information Meeting on August 2nd. We used a virtual format and we had 49 attendees. And we had a very active question and answer session after the meeting. And we've gotten one comment that's been submitted post-meeting. It was a comment specific to right-of-way needs in relation to private residence property. Also, in this month's INP report, I'd like to highlight that we received a response from the IEPA regarding the Long Meadow project. We've responded to them with some questions of our own. We're still waiting for the answers to those questions, and we anticipate updating the design drawings and specifications based on their response. And a supplement for that work, excuse me, is on the agenda today. And finally, I want to mention that there will be a groundbreaking ceremony for Bliss Main Fabian intersection realignment and roundabout at 12:30 today. It will be held at the project site with parking right where Fabian currently hits Main Street. So I hope to see you guys there later.
That's a true fast roundabout.
No, it's the Jennifer O'Connell.
No, yeah, I think there should be a statue of Drew and Carl in the middle.
Okay, so yeah, hopefully everybody can be there.
Their food,
I don't think
the
so.
refreshments. We're gonna
Only if
come.
you bring it.
No more. You don't get anybody there then.
I heard construction was gonna call a food truck over.
Oh, okay. Okay, well,
And
then
you
let's-
can bring corn.
Okay.
let's move on to item B, resolution approving an amendment to the Phase 2 engineering services agreement. This is reference the Kirk Road Bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad. I need a motion and a second.
Caius move.
Caius moves. Martin seconds. Jennifer?
Jackie spoke of the federal funding we received for this supplement earlier. It is Phase 2 engineering work that has been underway for the replacement of the existing 18-span Kirk Road Bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad and Reed Road. The design involves filling in beneath the existing bridge and providing a new single-span bridge for the UPRR and another new single-span bridge for Reed Road. Here during Phase 2 design, our designers are using updated hydraulic analysis and updated rainfall data, and we've come to the conclusion that a culvert opening to accommodate White's Creek is not large enough and must be increased in size from a culvert to now a third new single-span bridge. And this is a major change from our Phase 1 design to our Phase 2 design. And this additional effort will also require some geotechnical borings and supplement budget. Staff recommends approval of this amendment to Phase 2 engineering services with BLA for $224,254.
Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
thank you. Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Winnicki,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Cross.
Raz, yes.
Pass.
Item C, resolution approving amendment number 7 to a Phase 2 engineering services agreement. This is reference Long Meadow Parkway, and we'll turn this over to Steve.
As Jennifer mentioned, we're going to create new contract and new specs to dispose of the lead contaminated soil, given the new direction we've received from the regulatory agency. We'll also follow that up with a new contract to pave the remaining segment and wrap up any ancillary items to get the road open. So this is an amendment for additional design engineering to create those new contracts and specs for $143,000 and change. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, so Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but we there's this contaminated lead soil. The way things were before, we would have to load it all up into containers and and transport it somewhere really far, possibly by rail. And now we're being told that we can separate the lead from the soil on site, which is a tiny percentage of what has to be taken off site. So that would save us some costs.
We'll get more flexibility to do on-site treatment, lower the contamination levels, which will allow us to dispose of the soils locally at a lower cost.
Okay, so when you say locally, it might be at a local
Caius's house.
landfill, forest
It
preserve.
creates more opportunities for us to use landfills that are closer to the
Okay.
project site as opposed to out of state or out of the country.
So very good news as far as the distance that this heavy material has to be transported.
I think it makes good corn fertilizer.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Chairman, sorry. I have a question when you get
Sure.
around to me.
Yeah,
Sorry,
go
I
ahead.
didn't mean to barge in.
Questions or comments?
Uh,
Mr.
so
Caius?
the question is, we have it confirmed with the IEPA then that this is a firm possibility? Because
We have a written
Like we're
response.
still working in progress there, but
We have a written response and
And the
we are
response said-
still coordinating with them with clarification questions. So, but it's,
like, what the heck, or just small questions?
yeah.
We're
small
close, we're
questions.
real close.
It's a favorable response.
Okay.
And so it's in writing and we have something to work with now. And so it's all good.
Okay,
So, yeah,
thanks.
real good news all around. Other
Quick
questions?
move the resolution.
Did,
Get that.
okay, I need a motion and a second. Didn't I get that?
No.
No? Okay, so Kenyon moves and
Berman second.
Berman seconds. Thank you, Mr. Kenyon. Additional questions or comments?
How will this move the opening of that bridge and the road up?
Mid
When do you think?
next year, maybe?
It's still to be determined. We've got to look at production rates on treating the material on site, likely in lifts, do soil sampling, make sure its lead levels are reduced, and then excavate and haul off that lift, and then repeat and repeat and repeat that process. So our excellent design consultant staff will determine production rates, and we'll have to design our contract accordingly. So we don't have that, haven't dialed in that date yet of,
Yeah.
we just got the response like 2 weeks ago. So
He could be a politician.
we're working
If he
on that.
didn't give you
No
an
answer.
answer.
It's gonna be tough getting all that engineering work done so that we can let the contract before winter. So other questions or comments? Okay, if not, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Winnicki,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
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 Item 10, I need a motion and a second to replace all our reports on file.
Guys, move.
Moved by Caius,
He seconds.
second by Wonicky. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Winnicki,
Yes.
Martin, Braz.
Raz, yes.
Yes.
We have no need for executive session. Under new business, I'll just repeat that we have the groundbreaking at 12:30 today out at Fabian in Maine. Hope you all can come. And then is there anything from the committee, any new business? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 13. We're going to do the 2023 budget presentation. So Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, excuse me, the Finance Committee gave direction in regards to doing presentations in August for all the various committees. And so this is our presentation. It will be the third time that you have seen this, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. Feel free if you want to ask any questions. I also want to say that Ms. Hopkinson did a detailed overview a couple months ago on this, and her and I are both always available if there's any specific questions too after the fact today that you want to ask. So this is our August quick briefing on such. Our guiding principles, safety and maintenance, preservation of our roads, our public services, snow plowing, traffic operations, and permitting. We use quite a bit of our funds for leveraging federal and state funds, and we also look at supporting economic development. When you look at the revenues and expenditures, this is something that you might want to take some time and just see some of the increases in revenues on the left side. Motor fuel, local option, and the sales tax, those are increasing primarily because we're coming out of COVID and there were reductions that were looked at previously, as well as impact fees have increased a bit because of the different development activities. There's quite a bit of development activities currently happening. On the right-hand side is the expenditures, and we show increases in pavement maintenance. This is driven by needs and various improvements relative to striping and reflectors. Traffic operations is also very important. We have increases in the traffic signal and light maintenance, as well as we're looking at over the next few years transitioning our high pressure sodium vapor street lights to LED. And so that's some of the costs involved in there. And then vehicles, there's some increase there in regards to, that's just the replacement of vehicles where we typically are replacing them every about 10 to 15 years. The highlights, we have an overall budget of about 116 million. Of that, 74% of that budget is capital improvements. If you also look, you also see that there's some different decreases in grants. A lot of that was because as part of the capital program, the rebuild funds, those funds come to an end. And so that was over $5 million a year. So that's just some of the general information in regards to our budget highlights. I'm going to move on to the next one. This is our org chart. Personnel, the personnel increase you saw was 2 additional positions. We previously have talked about those positions. One is that we have the assistant county engineer that is highlighted right here. This is part of the committee's direction on the transition planning that we've been doing for the section, as well as we're requesting another maintenance supervisor in order to assist with the maintenance needs as our maintenance needs increase. And so those are the 2 positions. The other primary increase for personnel is overtime. We have a lot of different activities that occur off hours, different construction for the permitting program. Julie locates that we're required to do by law. There's close to anywhere between 7,000 to 8,000 Julie locates that we do on an annual basis. So there's a lot of different efforts. We've also been doing some overnight repaving, like on Randall Road, where the overnight repaving helps with traffic flow, et cetera. So some overtime increase. Those are the primary reasons for the personnel. This I'm going to skip. I mean, generally what you see in our budget though is the local share. So there are some funds that are outside of the local share that you don't see directly in the budget. Transportation funds, the most important thing here for us to realize is pretty much all of our funds go towards maintenance and services, public services. The transportation sales tax is our primary capital program, but even that, a majority of that funding goes towards maintenance. And so the remaining funds we use to leverage state and federal funds. So I always try to re-emphasize that the transportation sales tax is monies that we critically need in order to do projects. And so that's the primary highlight of this slide that I want to show. This is just an overview of the different types of funding, expenses, and various revenues that are coming in towards our overall program. Our different projects, just to highlight a few of the projects on here. I think you're aware that we're moving forward with the Doberman Granite, the overpass of the Granite extension up to Doberman. You should see in the next month or two, the letting for that project. A lot of state and federal funds are involved in that project. Long Meadow is part of the overall list here. And then there's a lot of intersection improvements on Randall that are proceeding forward that are highlighted here. Moving on to some of the intersection safety and operational improvements, you'll see quite a few intersection improvements here that the committee over the last few years have requested that we move forward with. We continue to work on the various engineering requirements for these projects, and you'll see some like the Randall at Big Timber. There are some Fabian improvements, the Fabian at Randall, or I'm sorry, the Fabian at Route 31 that we're working on that safety improvement. So quite a few intersection projects that are listed here. Bridge and structural projects, we typically, our highest number of projects is in this category. At any given time, we usually have 35 to 45 structural projects. Many of these are, again, bridge structures. Again, maintenance, primarily some more of the bridge and structural projects. Some of these projects we have to replace as well. And so some of these structures are replacements. Safety and interconnect projects. This is something that we continue to do in order to assist with traffic flow and to address safety needs at various locations. One of the projects that you saw last month and that we will be letting here fairly soon is the Montgomery Road at Virgil Gilman Trail. This is has some federal HSIP funds that are involved with it. Orchard at Jericho Orchard at US 30 continues to move forward. So we have many different projects here in order to look at safety. Plank Road again is we have a number of accidents along this roadway, so we're doing some future improvements to address some of those safety concerns. And then bicycle pedestrian, we're in the process of updating our bicycle and pedestrian plan. We do different ADA adjustments that are required by federal law. We try to do a project or two every year in order to meet the ADA transition planning requirements. And then we're also working on the multimodal aspect north of US 20 all the way up to the county line. Those engineering efforts are proceeding forward. Maintenance of roadway. We have around 750 lane miles of roadway. We do various crack sealing, resurfacing projects, pavement marking, different preservation efforts, and the overall program is approximately $11 million. Bridges, we have about 141 county structures that we inspect, and those are a combination of our county highway system, as well as we also assist with the inspections of township roadways. So a number of different structures throughout the county. And then we will be starting to work too on addressing our 5-year transportation improvement program. So this is just kind of letting you know that we're working on that effort over the next few months. If there are projects, talk to me and we'll work on seeing if we can move some projects forward. I will tell you right now that we have some revenue issues in regards to trying to move forward with projects. Most of our revenues have to go towards maintenance. And then secondarily, we look at the maintenance is a safety aspect, but safety is the next thing that we look at if there's different intersection improvements that need to occur. So maintenance and safety takes up almost all of our revenues. And then we try to utilize our remaining revenues in order to match the federal and state funding that might be available for different projects. So a lot of our projects that while we have planning efforts at the direction of this committee, we don't necessarily have the funding in order to move forward, or we're in the process of trying to get the additional federal and state funds. So that's generally an overview of everything in our budget. I'd be glad to take questions. There are also within your packet, there's a few sheets that show you the delta changes in the budgets compared to previous year. Again, there are explanations as to why on the right-hand side, but feel free if you have questions. Again, Ms. Hopkinson and myself would be glad to get into the specifics. The other thing is that you do have the detailed budget sheets. There's over 100 sheets that are part of your packet. Feel free to look at that since there's multiple funding revenues for a lot of our projects. It's sometimes hard to understand that when you're going through 17 different funding sources trying to figure out the cost of projects. You might have a project that's in 3 or 5 different funding sources. So again, we'd be glad to assist to help answer some of your questions. And that's all I have at staff.
Yeah, it's always important to remember that KDOT is a little bit unique as far as being separate from the general fund in most cases. And looking at that long list of projects, it's pretty amazing when you think of the amount of paperwork and work, just general work that goes into it by staff, writing specs, reviewing bids and letting bids and then overseeing it. So a lot of work there and we appreciate it. Questions for Tom on the budget?
Question, Shepro?
Mr. Caius first, then Shepro second.
Just a question back on the Long Meadow Parkway, between Randall and Whitechapel. It's still in as a project improvements. What's the specifics on that? Is it
a lot of our funding, especially with federal funds, some of these projects track year to year, and we even have some projects that are 5 to 10 years old because we haven't been billed by the state for the final for our final local share. So I at any given time we have $10 to $15 million that we owe the state of Illinois for a project that we might have completed a couple years ago, or even 5 to 10 years ago, 7 years ago.
Oh, okay, so it's just on the books.
Yeah, just on the books.
No wonder the state's in trouble financing.
Final closeout of the construction paperwork takes years on those federally funded projects.
We were doing Stearns Road. I think we still are in some respects.
Yeah, if you ever look at the monies in our funding accounts, they're all obligated. It's not, I mean, one of the detailed funding sheets that Kathy puts together every month shows that we might have $100 to $130 million at any given moment in our accounts, but they're all obligated funds. So we're always tracking it year to year for different projects, and as well as it might take 3 years to complete a project. So 5 million one year through 5 million the last year. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Shepro, you had a question?
Yes, 2 actually. With respect to the bridges, sometimes people will ask me, are there any bridges that are in, I don't know, how would I put it, a critical need for repair? Or is every bridge that needs maintenance work getting it?
Every bridge that needs maintenance work is getting it. As far as a critical, we know of no bridges at this point in time. We start our planning efforts years in advance because of the engineering and sometimes right away that's required. So when we start seeing any type of deficiencies, we're probably at least on average 5 years, maybe even sometimes longer than that in advance of the project. So there's at this point in time, there's no immediate concern that we are aware of. Again, we typically do these inspections as required by the federal requirements. We are inspecting these structures usually many or most of them every 2 years.
Thank you. And the second one came up at my fire district meeting last night. The fire department has expressed some concern about the dispute, I guess, between Campton Township and Campton Village with respect to roads. And they wondered if there's any kind of backup plan where KDOT would step in if for some reason that dispute can't be resolved and there's a need for emergency road work, like a storm where there were down trees or something.
This is Carl. I'll take that one because I've been talking directly with Sam Galucci, who's the Township Highway Commissioner. We do have an obligation under the statute to assist the various townships. So we basically function as the engineering department for all 16 Township Highway Commissioners. And if they request our assistance on engineering, we do it. Sometimes we'll charge them back depending on the scope of the work. Aside from that, we really don't have any formal requirement to any of the municipalities or the road districts themselves. So I guess the answer to your question is if there is an emergency and we are called upon to respond, we would likely do that. So it's sort of the pleasure of the board. We work for you. If it's something you want us to engage with the village, we can do that. It would be brand new territory for us. We've never done anything like this for any of the other villages. So hopefully.
But if there were an emergency, presumably something would be done to deal with it.
Right. We have the equipment, we can respond, and we've done that kind of stuff before in emergency situations. It's more I think the concern is more the routine. What happens day to day?
Right.
How does the village get their public works accomplished?
Thank you.
Other questions for Tom on the budget presentation? Okay, seeing none. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Anybody in person or online? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move, we adjourn.
Mr.
Second,
Kenny
Berman.
moves, Berman seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
There was used to be an FS chemical plant, like close to the railroad tracks.